I never thought I'd return to that godforsaken farmhouse in rural Ohio. Not after Dad shoved me out the door with nothing but a backpack and a curse that still echoes in my nightmares. But there I was, 17 years later, standing in the back row of my brother's wedding like a ghost no one invited, watching the man who ruined my life toast to eternal love with a champagne flute that probably cost more than my first apartment. And then she did it, my new sister-in-law, with her sharp Midwestern wit and a voice like a loaded shotgun, ripped the veil off his empire of lies right there on the dance floor, exposing the cancer he'd buried in our bloodline for decades. It started with a single photo on her Instagram, the kind that goes viral in small towns. Me, gaunt and 22, in an orange jumpsuit, mugshot eyes staring back from a Polk County jail cell. "Family's secrets die hard," her caption read, and by the time the first guests arrived, the whispers had turned to outright stares. I'd planned my revenge for years. But this was her gift to me. A Molotov cocktail tossed into the heart of his perfect day. And as the fireworks of truth exploded, I realized the real betrayal wasn't just his, it was ours. All of us complicit in the silence. The air in that old barn smelled like hay and hypocrisy. The kind of scent that clings to your skin long after you've fled the scene. I'd driven 12 hours straight from my cramped studio in Chicago. The kind of place where the radiator clanks like it's got a grudge, and the neighbors blast country anthems at 3 a.m. Because fuck therapy, right? That's America for you, raw, unfiltered. Where dreams go to die or reinvent themselves in dive bars over cheap whiskey. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight on I-70 that my knuckles bleached white. Replaying the invitation that wasn't meant for me, a mass email glitch. My brother's sloppy admin work at his real estate firm. Remy? Shit. Delete that. He'd probably typed in a panic. But it was too late. The damage was done. Or maybe the universe's way of saying, payback's a bitch. Brother. I parked my beat-up Ford Focus, the one with the dent from that bar fight in '09 that I still regret, behind a row of gleaming Tahoes and Escalades. The vehicles of Dad's successful progeny and their plus ones. The farmhouse loomed in the distance. That sprawling Victorian beast with its wraparound porch where Mom used to read us, where the red fern grows until her lungs gave out from the chemo. Cancer. The word still tastes like rust. She was gone by my 15th birthday. And Dad, he blamed me. Said my troublemaking stressed her out. That my shoplifting streak, petty shit, candy bars and comic books from the Five Below in town was the final straw. But we both knew it was deeper. A rot he'd planted and watered with his silence. Slipping into the ceremony unnoticed was easy. Black jeans. A faded flannel over a white button-down. Boots scuffed from construction sites. I looked like just another uncle from Cleveland, not the black sheep Dad had branded a felon. The seats filled with cousins I hadn't seen since they were in diapers. Now all grown with mortgages and 401(k)s. Clapping politely as Jake, my golden boy brother, strode down the aisle in a tux that screamed old money. He was 35 now, broad-shouldered like Dad, with that same easy grin that hid teeth sharp as broken glass. Beside him, Elena, the bride, radiant in lace that whispered against the wooden floor, her dark hair pinned with wildflowers from the property line. She was the wild card, a Chicago transplant like me, but she'd clawed her way into law school on scholarships and grit, not handouts. Jake met her at some networking event. She saw through his charm faster than most. But love's blind. Or so they say. The officiant droned on about unity and forgiveness, words that made my stomach twist like a knife in a wound. Dad sat front row, silver hair slicked back, His Armani suit tailored just right for a man who'd built an empire flipping foreclosures in the Rust Belt. Remy Whitaker Sr., real estate kingpin of Medina County, the guy who turned cornfields into cul-de-sacs with McMansions for the upwardly mobile. He didn't glance back once. Not even when the vows hit that line about standing by your partner through every storm. Hypocrite. The storm he unleashed on me was a Category 5, and I was the one left picking up the debris. As they kissed, sealed, legal, forever, I felt it building, that itch under my skin like ants marching toward a picnic. Revenge isn't a light switch, it's a slow burn. Fed by years of therapy sessions I couldn't afford and nights staring at the ceiling, piecing together the puzzle he thought he'd buried. It started small, anonymous tips to the county assessor about his creative tax write-offs. Nothing that stuck, but enough to make his accountant sweat. Then bolder, hacking his firm's email with a script I learned from a cellmate. Leaking bids to competitors that cost him a multi-million deal in Akron. But today was the end game. Or so I thought. I didn't count on Elena. The reception kicked off with open-bar grace. Bourbon flowing like the Cuyahoga on a bad day. I nursed a Bud Light in the shadows, watching Jake whirl Elena across the floor to some Luke Bryan tune that had the ants two-stepping in their heels. Dad held court at the head table, regaling investors with tales of the '08 crash he navigated like a pro. Bullshit. He navigated it by cutting corners, by framing the fall guy me for the embezzlement that nearly tanked the business. 17 years ago, I was 20, fresh out of community college with dreams of flipping houses myself, apprenticing under him. One night, the books didn't balance, $250,000 gone, wired to offshore accounts. Dad found the discrepancies, pinned it on me, the kid with the record for boosting comics, and when the feds came knocking, he handed me over like yesterday's trash. Kid's always been wild, he'd told the judge, voice cracking just enough for sympathy. I got 5 years, served 3 in Chillicothe, paroled early for good behavior. Lost my inheritance, my name, everything. Jake? He stepped right into my shoes. Graduated OSU with a business degree. Built the firm bigger than Dad ever could. Blood's thicker than justice. Apparently. Elena caught my eye across the room, her laugh cutting through the din like a siren. She knew I was coming, had DM'd me weeks ago after finding that old mugshot in Jake's desk drawer during a deep clean. "We need to talk," her message read. "He's not who you think." I thought she meant Jake, the brother who'd ghosted me post-prison, sending Christmas cards signed in his neat script. "Miss you,
bro."
One day.
Lies.
But as she broke from the dance, microphone in hand for her toast, I realized the web was wider, stickier. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, voice steady as Lake Erie's winter freeze. "Family isn't just blood, it's the stories we tell, the truths we keep, and the ones we shatter to protect our own." The room hushed, forks pausing midair. Dad's smile faltered. Just a twitch. But I saw it, the predator sensing the trap. Jake and I met in a world of deals and deadlines. But what sealed it for me was his heart. And his family. She paused, eyes locking on me in the corner. Especially the ones who've been erased. Gasps rippled like wind through wheat. She held up her phone. The screen projected onto a bedsheet backdrop for the slideshow, my mugshot. Time-stamped 2008, followed by bank records, wire transfers, signatures that weren't mine. "This is Remy," she said, and my name on her lips felt like absolution and arson. Jake's brother. Dad's son. The one who took the fall for a father's greed. Chaos erupted. Aunt Linda choked on her shrimp cocktail. Uncle Ray muttered, "What the hell?" like a prayer gone wrong. Jake lunged for the mic, face ashen. But Elena sidestepped, her gown swirling like a flag of war. 17 years ago, Remy was railroaded for embezzlement. But those accounts traced back to Richard Whitaker's shell company in the Caymans. He protected his legacy by sacrificing his boy. Dad bolted up, chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard. This is libel. Security. But the guests were already dividing, some nodding, remembering whispers from back then, others glaring at Elena like she'd poisoned the cake. I stepped forward, heart pounding like a bass drum in a Metallica riff, the room's eyes pinning me like a specimen. "It's true," I said, voice low but carrying, that prison-honed calm kicking in. "He kicked me out to save his ass. And you all let him." Jake grabbed my arm, breath hot with bourbon. "Remy, what the fuck? This is my wedding." His eyes pleaded betrayal, fear, a flicker of guilt, or was it calculation? The family trait? She's lying. "We can fix this." But Elena wasn't done. "No more fixes."
Jake.
"I found the letters in your attic, Remy's appeals. The ones you hid. You knew. All this time." She turned to the crowd. A modern Joan of Arc in Vera Wang. "Today, we rewrite the story. Remy Whitaker is family. And the truth? It's the best gift I can give." The barn fell silent, save for Dad's ragged breathing as he slumped back, empire cracking under the weight of a single speech. I locked eyes with him across the divide. 17 years distilled into that stare. "Your move, old man." But as applause trickled, tentative, polarized, I felt the twist of the knife. This wasn't just revenge, it was resurrection. And the dead don't stay buried easy. The fallout hit like a Midwest twister, fast, furious, leaving nothing but splintered wood and regrets in its wake. By the time the string lights flickered on, casting long shadows across the hay-strewn floor, half the guests had slipped out like rats from a sinking ship, murmuring about family drama over their key lime pie. The diehards stayed, clustered in factions, Dad's business cronies forming a defensive phalanx by the bar, shooting glares hot enough to melt steel, Elena's progressive law school pals from Cleveland, nodding supportively as they live-tweeted the scandal with family secrets and justice delayed. And me, I was the eye of the storm, perched on a hay bale with a fresh whiskey, Elena beside me like a co-conspirator in some Coen Brothers caper. "You're crazier than I thought," I muttered, clinking my glass to hers. Her champagne bubbled like suppressed laughter, dark eyes sparkling with that Chicago fire, unapologetic, the kind that gets you disbarred or deified. "That speech? You just nuked a marriage before the cake cutting." She shrugged, lace slipping off one shoulder, revealing a tattoo of the scales of justice twisted into barbed wire. "Jake's been dodging this bomb since we got engaged. Found the files during the move, your prison letters, Dad's falsified affidavits. He begged me to bury it." Her voice dropped, laced with that South Side edge. "But burying more?"
Nah.
"I've seen enough courtrooms to know silence is the real crime." I studied her, this stranger who'd upended my exile.
Elena Vasquez.
32. Daughter of Mexican immigrants who'd scrubbed floors to fund her JD at Case Western. She met Jake at a foreclosure auction, irony's a bitch, where he was bidding on a South Side row house and she was representing the tenants fighting eviction. Sparks flew over zoning laws and craft IPAs. 6 months later, rings and real estate dreams. But digging into the Whitaker lore for their save-the-dates, she unearthed bones I'd thought fossilized. Across the room, Jake paced like a caged bull, phone glued to his ear, barking at his PR guy. Spin it as a misunderstanding. Stat. And find out how the hell she got those docs. His tux was rumpled now. Ty Askew. That boy next door facade cracking to reveal the operator underneath. We'd been close once, fishing trips to Mosquito Lake, sneaking beers from Dad's garage, plotting world domination over Mom's apple pie. But prison changes the math. Loyalty's a luxury I couldn't afford. When I got out, he visited once. All awkward hugs and, "We'll make it right," then radio silence. Turns out, right meant inheriting the kingdom built on my ruins.
Dad.
Meanwhile, had retreated to the bridal suite upstairs, a converted loft with exposed beams and a king bed still smelling of fresh linens. I found him there later, after the DJ packed up and the stragglers nursed hangovers with coffee. He was at the window, staring out at the fireflies dancing over the soy fields, a half-smoked cigarillo between his fingers, the vice he'd sworn off after Mom's diagnosis. "Remy," he said without turning, voice gravelly from decades of boardroom bluffs. "You always did have a flair for the dramatic." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the whiskey buzzing like a live wire in my veins. Dramatic? That's rich. Coming from the guy who scripted my whole downfall. Those wires to the Caymans, your poker buddies in Miami.
Right?
The ones who bailed you out of the '07 subprime mess. He chuckled, low and bitter, turning to face me. Liver spots dotted his hands like constellations of regret, but his eyes, steel blue, unyielding. "You were a liability,
son."
That joyride in the F-150, the weed in your locker, cops were sniffing around. The books were a way out. Clean slate for the family. He stepped closer, cigar smoke curling like a noose. "I took the hit for you plenty, covered your ass when you totaled the truck, paid off that girl from high school. This business. Jake's future. Yours was collateral. Collateral." The word landed like a sucker punch, echoing the judge's gavel. I'd confessed to the embezzlement on his advice. Plead out.
Kid.
3 years tops, thinking it'd protect the firm, not knowing he'd testify against me. The secret he'd buried? Not just the money, but Mom's life insurance payout, siphoned to plug the hole before her body was cold. I'd found the policy stub in his desk months before the bust. Confronted him tear-streaked. "Dad, this is for her treatments." He'd backhanded me, hard enough to split my lip. "Mind your place."
Boy. Now.
Here we were, man to man, or ghost to grave robber. "Elena's got copies," I said, voice steady as a .45. "Sent to the DA this morning. Statutes run on the fraud. But tax evasion? That's federal."
Dad.
IRS loves a late audit. His face twisted. Not fear, but fury, the cunning fox cornered. "You think you can touch me? I've got senators on speed dial. Remy. Jake's the heir. You'll always be the screw-up." But there was a crack. A plea buried in the bluster. "Let it go. For your mother." I laughed, sharp and hollow, the sound bouncing off the rafters. "Mom? You invoke her now? After you let me rot while Jake played Ozzie and Harriet." I pulled the faded photo from my wallet, us 4 at Cedar Point, arms linked, grins wide under the Millennium Force. "She'd hate this. All of it." He deflated then, sinking onto the bed, cigar dropping to the floorboards. I did what I had to. The market was crashing, one wrong move, and we'd lose everything. You were young, resilient.
Jake.
He couldn't handle the cage. A beat. Then the flip. Help me bury this again. 50 grand. Wired clean. Start over in Florida. Away from this shit show.
Bribe.
The old playbook. Part of me, the kid craving approval, wavered. 50K could fix the leaky roof on my Chicago walk-up. Buy time for the community college night classes in coding I'd been chipping away at. But revenge isn't a transaction, it's a reckoning. No deal, I said, turning for the stairs. Your empire's built on sand.
Dad.
Watch it wash away. Downstairs. The party's corpse lingered, wilted balloons. Cake smeared on plates like abstract art. Elena found me by the bonfire pit, flames licking the night sky, casting her face in hellish glow. He try the waterworks, she asked, handing me a more gooey. Innocent. Absurd. Worse. The carrot. I bit in, chocolate melting bitter on my tongue. Why'd you do it? Risk the marriage for a ghost. She poked the fire with a stick. Sparks flying like accusations. Jake's good. Remy.
Deep down.
But he's his father's son, complicit.
Blind.
When I read your letters. God. The rage. The forgiveness you begged for. When you were the victim. Her eyes met mine.
Fierce.
I married him for the man he could be. It's my dowry. Jake stumbled out then, shadows clinging to his frame like bad debts. Elena, we need to talk. His voice cracked, boyish again. The brother I'd lost. This wasn't supposed to go nuclear? She stood, silhouette against the blaze. You hid it.
Jake.
For years. Said Remy was troubled, that Dad was protecting us. But protecting who? Your legacy or mine? He turned to me, hands out like a supplicant. Bro. I didn't know the full. Dad said it was a mix-up. That you'd get probation. I was in college. Scared shitless. Lies layered like onion skin. Peeling to reveal the core. Ambition over atonement. We can sue her for defamation. Get a PI on those files. Stop. Elena's command sliced clean. No more games. Choose. Us. Or them. The fire popped. Embers swirling into the void. Jake's gaze darted me. Her. The house of cards behind.
I
can't lose this. The firm. The life. He stepped toward her, but his eyes pleaded with me. Back me up, like old times. I felt it then. The polarization Elena promised, the crowd divided. No heroes. Just survivors clawing for air. Your call, brother, I said, voice flat as Ohio asphalt. But blood washes off.
Lies,
they stain. He chose silence, pulling Elena into a desperate embrace. Whispers I couldn't hear. She didn't melt. She stiffened, then pulled back, ring glinting like a warning. As I walked to my car, gravel crunching under boots, the first raindrops fell, torrential, biblical. Revenge tasted like ash. But for the first time in years, I breathed free. Or so I thought. The real twist was just revving its engine. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving over the Whitaker acres. The kind of Ohio morning where the fog rolls in thick from the Black River, swallowing secrets whole. I'd crashed in the guest cottage, a glorified shed with a pull-out couch and Wi-Fi that buffered like Dad's conscience. But sleep was a joke. Chased off by the echo of Elena's words and Jake's half-assed plea. My phone buzzed at 6:17 a.m., a text from an unknown number. Meet me at the old mill. 7 sharp. Coordinates pinned. A spot we'd played hooky at as kids. Skipping stones across the slurry pond while dreaming of escaping to the coasts. The mill was a relic. Rusted silos leaning like drunks after last call. Chain-link fence tagged with faded graffiti. Fuck the man in spray paint red. Elena waited by the water's edge. Jeans and a hoodie replacing the gown. Hair loose and wild. No makeup to hide the puffiness around her eyes. She'd cried or fought. Maybe both. You came, she said, voice rough from the night, handing me a thermos of black coffee strong enough to strip varnish. Curiosity's a killer. I sipped, the burn grounding me. Jake? He crashed on the couch. Or did Dad buy him a one-way to denial? She laughed. Short and sharp, kicking a pebble into the murk. He's inside, packing my things. Says, we need space. That I ambushed him. Her quotes were air-finger venomous. But here's the thing. Remy, I didn't tell you everything last night. My gut clenched. That old prison instinct flaring. Watch for the shank. What? There's an act 2? Dad's got a love child in the basement. Worse. She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, small as a bullet, glinting in the weak sun. After the toast. While you were upstairs, I cornered Jake. Pushed him on the letters, why he never reached out post-prison. He cracked. Remy. Said Dad made him sign an NDA. Wired him hush money for college. But the real bomb? You didn't just take the fall for the embezzlement. The world tilted. Coffee sloshing hot over my hand. What the fuck does that mean? She hesitated, eyes scanning the tree-line like we were being watched. Mom's death. It wasn't just cancer. Her words hung, heavy as humidity.
Dad.
He skimmed her treatments. Switched to a cheaper provider to free up cash for the firm, experimental drugs that worked. But the knockoff? Toxic batch. She declined fast because of it. He confessed to Jake years ago. Made him swear silence. You finding the insurance stub? That was the trigger. He framed you to bury the whole mess, insurance fraud tied to the meds. Nausea roiled. Visions flashing. Mom's last days. Skeletal in that hospice bed. Gasping for air that wouldn't come. I'd blamed the big C. The unfairness of it all. Even myself for not being stronger. But Dad? Poisoning her for profit? Son of a bitch. I hurled the thermos into the pond. Splash echoing like a gunshot. Why tell me now? Leverage for the divorce?
No.
Elena's grip on my arm was iron. Because Jake's flipping the script. He's calling a board meeting today, claiming I fabricated the files. That you're the unstable ex-con stirring shit for a payout. Dad's backing him. They've got a PI digging into your Chicago life. Trying to paint you as a grifter. The cunning It was pure Whitaker. Layers upon layers. Jake. The flip-flopper. Allying with the devil to save his skin. Controversial? Hell. It was Shakespearean. The brother-eyed, half-forgiven revealed as puppeteer. So, what's the play? We go public. Blow it wide. She shook her head. Drive clutched like a talisman.
Bigger.
I hacked Jake's cloud last night. Recordings of Dad admitting it all. Post-scandal bourbon rants. Enough for manslaughter charges if the DA bites. But her voice cracked. The lawyer yielding to the lover. If I drop this, we save the marriage. He gets help, therapy. The works. You walk with vindication. No jail for anyone. The choice polarized me, splitting my soul like a fault line. Drop it, and mom's ghost stays buried. Dad skates free in his golden years. Jake reforms into the brother I mourned. Pursue. And it's scorched earth. Trials in Cleveland dockets. Headlines in the Plain Dealer. Real estate scion's deadly secret. Families torn. Elena widowed in all but name. No one's pure. Dad's a monster forged in desperation. Jake a coward in complicity.
Me?
A vengeful specter. My hands stained by the leaks I'd already unleashed. Who wins in that hell? Rain started again, pattering on the silos like impatient fingers. Elena's eyes searched mine, pleading for absolution I couldn't grant. Remy, you're the wronged one. But revenge. It eats the avenger too. I took the drive, thumbing its edge, feeling the weight of worlds. Back at the farmhouse, the driveway was a circus, caterers hauling chafing dishes, a locksmith changing the guest cottage code. Jake intercepted me on the porch, disheveled in sweats, coffee mug trembling. We can end this, he whispered, glancing at Dad's silhouette in the window. Elena's talking sense. $50K each, plus equity in the firm. Brothers again. The offer dangled, tempting as forbidden fruit, redemption without ruin. But as I plugged in the drive later, in a diner off Route 18, files spilling across the laptop screen, audio of Dad's slurred confession, had to cut corners. Son. Your mother's meds. Regret it every day. Jake's voice chiming in. We protect family. Dad. Remy strong. He'll bounce back. Lies. All of it. The final flip. I hit send to the Plain Dealer. The FBI tip line. Elena's inbox. Let the chips fall. Controversial and chaotic. By noon, sirens wailed. Dad arrested in his study, sputtering about witch hunts.
Jake.
Shattered. Drove Elena away in the Escalade, her hand on his knee, staying.
For now.
The ultimate gamble.
Me?
I headed west, toward the setting sun, over Indiana corn. Radio blasting Springsteen, trapped on the turnpike. No exit in sight. Vindication tasted bittersweet. A Pyrrhic toast. Mom's justice. Or my vendetta. The courts would debate it for years. Polarizing juries and water cooler chats from Akron to Toledo. Happy ending? Maybe for Elena, if love's alchemy holds. Tragic? For the Whitakers, fractured forever. As for me, Remy the returned, I drove into the unknown. Free but forever scarred. The revenger who learned too late. In America's heartland, blood binds tighter than truth. And payback's just the prelude to the real storm.